Unproductive to talk about this on a pornographic site. That said, I wonder if people are able to emotionally bond with others deeply. At least has never been the case with me. I have been in many relationships, but I always put myself foremost, others below me. In any of my relationships, family, friendships, or sexual relations, I've always acted to be concerned, and to some extent, played the role, but only to gain something out of it. That is true even for my own family. This is the reason why I never understood the concepts of cheating or netorare. After all, everything is fair so long as it is legal, and I gain something out of it. In terms of trust, favors, credits, estate, fame, or any other. Given that I have both looks and intellect, and to some extent money, I agree that things have been easier for me than commoners. However, I still find it ridiculous seeing the agonized and animalistic comments on this site. For instance, take an example from this nonsensical piece of fiction. Put yourself in the place of the boyfriend. You get to satisfy your sexual desires with that female. Should that not be enough? Why should it matter whether she feels satisfied? Why should you bother? If she does, she should inform you, and you may choose to do something about it. If not, what problem is there? It is her own problem. And again, she can choose whatever she wants to do with her life. I do not see that guy spending much on her. As such, I think it is a good situation for both, the boyfriend and the otaku. So long as she does not become too filthy or catch an STD, things could work just fine. In fact, I've seen that females have an enhanced sense of guilt compared to males. From my experiences, you should make good use of that. With that, you could squeeze out her life till she decides to break up with you. Again, she would not dare to ruin your reputation either, because that would in turn reveal her infidelity and backfire. From what I see, the female is the miserable one here. She could not get pleasure from her average-looking boyfriend. She gets a little pleasure out of having intercourse with the below-average-looking otaku guy. Of course, the guilt of infidelity gets not even a fake sense of security or fulfillment of emotional needs. This is assuming that the female is a neurotypical female. I really wonder why the unbright individuals below cannot realize this. And that penis volume thing is just humorously ridiculous. Do not be concerned about that. Just focus on your goals and how to realize them. The way to go nowadays is to not get emotionally attached to anyone, even if you are neurotypical. If you absolutely need emotional fulfillment, then I am probably not the right person to talk to. In any case, this marks the end of the talk. Another thing, why self-insert yourself? I do not completely understand the concept of self-insertion. Try watching the events as a spectator. Although the plot is next to none and too generic, my pleasure arises from looking at the miserable and tormented state of females, which was fulfilled.
Lebao! Jesus Christ! Are you starting up some religion in here or something?
I don't believe he knows what he is talking about at all.
This is ironic, right?
The lesbian evaded by deleting her comment. How sad yet clever.
You're creepy as fuck. This is why you'll never get pussy. Go off though, enjoy you female suffering or whatever.
How bold of you to assume that I am sexually attracted to females alone. I dislike sexual intercourse and find romance absolutely repulsive. What attracts me is femininity. It need not be a female. I enjoy their suffering, be it physical or psychological. I am what neurotypicals call a sadist. It might not be easy for you to obtain what you want, but the same restrictions do not apply to me to that extent. Not when I have both superior intellect and looks, and even money to some extent when compared to average people. The only reason I even read pornography is to avoid tormenting real people. That can be troublesome even for me. I love many gore and torture comics this website has. However, sometimes even they are not enough, and I have to switch to the darknets to find some real content. I do not require true love because I do not possess those emotions. It is completely worthless to me. The rest I can obtain easily. If not, I can plan well enough to obtain it in either the long run or the short run, given my priorities. And if something is unobtainable, I do not bother investing my resources in obtaining it. This applies to not only people, but also objects, and to the people it applies. Are not limited to outsiders. They include my family. I can plan against my own family if it benefits me in some way.
Base exaltation, dabbing on all the Puritans, with his unique ideology pertaining females. I bet this is him, actually.
I know, right? The feeling when he assumed I'm neurotypical and not a deranged masochistic retard. I've never had a pussy so wet in my life. How pathetic do you have to be to write paragraphs of bullshit in the comments of a hentai? Anyway, 10 out of 10. Very good hentai.
I do agree with you being a retard. I wonder what led you to the conclusion that you assume to be a neurotypical. The words used were, "It might not be easy for you." And I am what neurotypicals call a sadist. Do explain the rules of logic used to come to that conclusion. I am interested. The statements never reflected any assumptions about your gender, mental state, country of origin, or any other personal attribute. All in all, none have any reason to believe any other. Of course, it goes both ways. It is better to keep statements as generic as possible, unless, of course, the poster wants you to assume so, or a sufficient amount of information has been collected. That said, naught is resistant to errors. It is only human to do so. And personally, I loathe masochists. Those swines ought to be castrated alive, with their filthy organs of pleasures stomped upon. But that would only serve to get them off. How perverse. On another note, I do feel elated for stealing the common virginities of some accounts. Say, Snuggabus and Burn Logic. That, or they delete their comments very often. Quite the prideless individuals in which case. Those scums must be grateful to me. Who else was going to rob their accounts of their virginities that had been rotting for almost a year? The insects' accounts would have remained virgin for the remaining lifespans otherwise. How disgusting.
Bro, why are you picking fights in the hentai comment section? It's so great to be a dude. Chill out. It's just adult fetishes.
Damn, I love Garrus. Average people really have low intellects. That said, most that access this site are even below that mark. Primarily, calling this piece of pornography a doujin, especially when the tags clearly state manga, is a tad appalling. Secondarily, what made them think this was a fight is incomprehensible. Tertiarily, their souls burning with urges to remind me of the productivity of my talks despite their incompetence, and the unproductiveness of their desires is quite commendable. Sarcasm, but of course. Quaternarily, I clearly stated that loathing masochists was a personal opinion and had less to do with the morality of being a masochist. It is the same as when one comments about disliking vegetables, detesting blacks, abhorring females, and so on.
I think you're either a troll or someone who really wants to sound like a highly intelligent psychopath, but probably isn't. As someone who knows a literal genius with an IQ over 150 and knew a psychopath in the past, it's not that I think it unlikely for a psychopath genius to write things like you've said on a hentai website, but just that I find you unconvincing. A real psychopath would likely make a normal hentai account and pretend to be someone they're not, playing an act to fool others in order to see the mental workings of the people here, and then maybe say a couple of things to upset people, or play some games with a particularly weak person's feelings. Or more likely, they wouldn't waste their time here. Cool story though, a little dull, but still a good read.
It is the same when one questions the existence of a god. It can neither be proved nor be disproved. It is purely subjective to what one believes in, even scientific facts and physical laws. Or more generally, any statement cannot be proved without any underlying assumptions. That may include the proportion of the audience that finds the proof acceptable. Likewise, a man who picks up a rotten apple once does not learn to spot every rotten apple there is. In other words, he does not gain the ability to prove the state of an apple once encountered. It is a trait of commoners, average folks, to feel the need to point out what they think is pointless by posting pointless comments themselves. Interestingly, commoners always tend to think that they are normal and are attracted to normalcy like flies are attracted to lamps, and that if they find something abnormal, other commoners will as well. This is how these insects are able to form swarms of like-minded mongrels like themselves. This swarm strengthens each of its member by reinforcing its common ideals, protecting its weakling individuals, and develops an inertia of normalcy. Take for instance, 2 insects below these 2 posts, a poster of the whatever comment and another poster of the dumb comment. Commoners lack processing abilities, and it takes a lot of effort and time for them to process even a single paragraph. And the result is very prone to errors, and would rather spend this time masturbating. Which of course would make some sense, given that this is a pornographic site. The dumb also instinctively find others who are superior to them dumber. A trait very often found in commoners. Unfortunately, these inferior commoners also exist in the majority and tend to find everyone out of that tiny circle that they've drawn up a threat to their lowly and wretched existence. If not for the strength of their swarm, it would have been easier to eradicate and eliminate their inferior genes off the face of this planet that they've infested! Damn, I love Garrus.